Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic channel. Hope you're having an amazing day. And as always, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and guys, we need to be self-educated because the story that they're telling us about our civilization and about the last 100 years and how everything worked and was formed and what was built and when, it just doesn't make sense. And that's what we're going to have a bit of a look at today. Today we're in Victoria, Australia, and we're going to have a look at Dandenong, which is a town about 25 k's south of Melbourne, the capital. And just a shout out and thanks to Maddie Reardon, who has sent me a lot of these photos and yeah, sort of put me onto Dandenong. So let's have a look at Dandenong, Victoria, Australia. Dandenong, Victoria. So it's a suburb of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, 29 kilometres southeast of the CBD. It's located in the Dandenong Ranges of eastern Victoria. The early history is prior to the European settlement. It was inhabited by the wolrd Indigenous Australian tribe, and European settlement was Joseph Hawdon established a pastoral run on Narrawong in 1837, bringing cattle from Sydney by land. Soon a few timber cutters and a police camp were also located. The post office, Dandenong Post Office opened on the 1st of July 1848. Now keep in mind that Sydney and Australia was discovered, they say, 1788, which means the first colonies were really sort of established the early 1800s. Botany Bay, you're looking at sort of 1810, 1820 was when, and this is literally just stuff off the ship. So they're saying, 30 years after that, they were building the Dandenong Post Office. And here it is, the Dandenong Post Office. As you can see, I'm not sure what the date of this is, but we've got a horse and buggy out here, dirt roads. And this is clearly a big, solid red brick building, all brick. Okay, and look what's next to it too. This is at least 3 stories, 2 stories, big brick buildings. And this looks, 1880s sort of thing. It looks probably not too long after they tell us it was built in 1848. So yeah, there you go. It's just, I've got one other shot of it that's a bit newer. This one has still got a horse and cart in it. So it's probably just a bit, it's actually a pretty good photo. It's a bit hazy, but it's not too bad. And yeah, you can see big buildings in the background, It's in Australia, so as I've mentioned before, all the buildings are covered with tin roofs. That's part of the facade that they put on the Australian buildings. Another one is bluestone, which they use a lot in the east, on the east coast of Australia, and we'll have a look at that as well. But this is the post office they built. So they tell us that was built, Dandenong Post Office, 1848, July 1st. So there you go. The centenary of the Dandenong Town Hall. So the Dandenong Town Hall was opened in 1890. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're going to have a look at that in a minute. And I just wanted to show you where all these bricks came from. Clay pits and bricks. So actually, up here we've got quarrying of local stones. So the greater Dandenong area was never a major stone quarrying area. However, there were a number of stone quarries in the early days, including Wedge Street, Kirkham, and behind the police station. A local granite quarry provided the stone for the bridge over the Dandenong Creek, built in 1867. Okay, so this is the Dandenong Bridge. As you can see, just a solid stone, it looks like. I'm not sure, it looks like cement. Notice it's got all these, Antiquitech pillar things coming off it. This is another shot. underneath. And you can see there's a lot of work, you know, they've done the banks and everything. It's not a huge bridge, doesn't have arches or anything, but definitely, you know, just you know, the way that they finish these bridges and these bollards or whatever they are with their little circles on the top, little Antiquitech circles. Oops. Let's see if we can get a better look. Yeah, these. Oh, stop moving. See them? And up here there's another one. Oh gosh. Right there. And you see these everywhere, and they've got the balls on top. So if you've seen any of Global Vision's videos, he goes into a lot of the Antiquitech and talks about these balls, and he's found some that have mercury in them. You know, so what are these? What are they? They're everywhere. You see them on all bridges. All old world bridges have them, and also the lamps. So that's the bridge that they built, 1867, okay? Now the clay pits, this is where they got all their bricks from, guys. The Dandenong district and the Berwick area beyond were found to have plentiful supplies of clay. Brickmaking became one of the main industries of the area using the local clay. In fact, Dandenong was once, it was said, famous for brickmaking, quoted by Jarvis, whoever Jarvis is. Although most of the early buildings were of timber, bricks were used to build the chimneys. Okay? Although most of the early buildings were of timber, bricks were used to build the chimneys. We just saw the post office from 1848. Not sure when the photos were, but they were 1800s. And you saw that it was brick, and there were two massive brick buildings next to it. No wood. One of the early chronicles has described the instance of local brickmaking. The first bricks, I believe, were made from clay dug out of a hole where now runs the Mill Creek. It was when Mr. Lyle was building the homestead at Yarramah Park in the early 1850s, the bricks were needed for the chimneys. This hole was gradually extended by rain. There soon became a succession of holes and deep cracks, and it formed a creek, which became the creek. The hole was referred to, was probably the Heatherton Road, now crosses the Princess Highway. Other clay holes were used for brickmaking. So like they're talking about just digging holes to get clay out of to make their bricks, and they're only saying bricks for chimneys. Now this is the Ordish Fire Brick Company in 1904. Now 1904, so first thing, more than 50 years after that solid brick post office was built, and this is what we've got. 4 men, 2 kids and a horse. Like seriously, is this what this is the story, guys? This is where the bricks came from. But then they keep trying to say, no, the bricks were just for chimneys. Yeah, really? We're going to see some brick buildings. So it's just a ridiculous story again. Does that say 1973? I mean, so they got nothing. No, the site near the railway was used by the Centennial Brickworks in 1881. An importance of the distinctive of the clay to the North Dandenong exploited the Ordish Fire Brick. So it just keeps coming back to this Ordish Fire Brick Company. And that's obviously an early photo, but like I said, this is 50 years after that post office was built. So ridiculous. And I also found this. This is Lethbridge Quarry. Well, that's what the photo says. Now this is clearly an obelisk. It's not connected to anything. What are they trying to say? That the building's underground or something? I mean, that should be coming out of here if they're trying to say this is, well, they're not even saying it's a brickmaker, it's a quarry. So what even is that doing there? They just built it in their spare time with the rock they were digging out. And also this shape looks like a building. And look, we've got uprights here. I mean, I'm not sure, what. And there's obviously no one around working, but that looks like some kind of collapsed building to me. And we've got a obelisk out the front. So I found that interesting. That's Lethbridge. That's very close to Dandenong, so it's in the whole sort of same area. All right, let's have a look at some pictures, shall we? Okay, so this is Dandenong town. Now this is sort of 1880s, as you can see, just all mud everywhere, no paved roads. And I mean, it's not the best quality, but you can see there's a horse here, and you can see here's a wooden house. Clearly that's a wooden house with a brick chimney, just like they were saying in all that text. We have some other small houses here. Look, you can see this house, you know, the balcony is as wide as the house. Another house here. And then we have this thing up here, which looks like it's 3 stories, solid brick, and this thing here, which is a big 2-story solid brick building. And just these little, this is what you would expect to find, these little buildings, but not these. And you could imagine just the amount of bricks that would need to go into those. So this is just one shot of the town back then. This is a close-up of that brick building we saw in the corner. And just look what's next to it. That's what you would expect to see. Just a little 1-story wooden building. Here again. Yes, they've got chimneys made of brick. You can see them everywhere. But look at this. It's just solid brick. It's got the archwork. Everything's, you know, symmetrical. Perfect workmanship. And just in the mud. You know, there's no town around here. Like, there's no roads. There's just a few buildings. Who built this and why? Again, this is the school, I believe. This we saw at the start, and just thought that's just a huge. That's a big building. You know, big thick walls, lead. You know, maybe not lead light, but you know, nice glass work, and then the whole glass thing again. Buildings with windows in the 1840s and 50s in Australia. You know, very, you know. Very dodgy where they got the glass from. There were types of glass, but there wasn't, you know, the glass panels that we have today that you can actually see through. They had, you know, like leaded glass and things like this. But yeah, and you can see the costumes. So there, you know, and again, obviously that's a staged photo, and this building is not level. You can see we've got foundations here and it just goes into the ground, even a few steps going up. Again, this is what you would expect to see. Dandenong Coach Factory. Just got all these guys out. Just a wooden building, 1-story, and they're at work building coaches. Now that is what you would expect. But that's not what we get. We get stuff like this. This is a shot of the main street, and as you can see, it's lined with big 2- and 3-story brick buildings. In the outskirts, we've got the little buildings. And look how wide that street is. Now, that's something we see in a lot of Australian towns as well. Really, really wide streets. Whoops. Here's that building again. So it's actually the school. It's actually, their primary school is what they're saying. So... Why you would build a building like that for a primary school when these kids, once they're inside, they could clearly not see out that window. Like, look how tall it is. It's just silly. Like, and I haven't seen inside this, but I bet you that's 1-story. I mean, what an amount of wasted space. If this is built when you're building a community, why would you go to all the time, effort, extra work, extra people needed, extra materials, bricks that you clearly don't have, glass, all this stuff to build that when you could just build something, you know, that normal people would build. Something, well, like that. That's what they would build, not that. And again, that's another setup shot. All the kids in there. So I don't have a date on this one, but you know, they got there, so you know, it looks circa 1900s. And just, you know, just this kind of brickwork you see, you know, they go in there and they do these little shapes in the bricks, you know. That kind of stuff does not happen anymore. And just the windows, it's just not possible. It just doesn't even make sense. Here's another old shot. This is 1800s, late 1800s, as you can see, just dirt roads, people standing around. Again, this looks like I mean, I don't know, cameras were fairly new, I guess, fairly rare around the turn of the century. They were invented, you know, the first photos were 1827, they tell us. But But everyone's just posing. Oh yeah, yep, camera, let's all stand in the street. And, I mean, just look at these buildings. Solid brick, all the way down the road. Now, I mean, what are we talking, 1900 maybe? 50 years after they started Dandenong? As you can see, it's not got a huge population. Now, this is Malvern Town Hall. This is actually a suburb of Melbourne, but I just put this in. You can see we've got a nice rotunda there. We see these everywhere, you know, they call them bandstands a lot, grandstands, and then just this huge tower in the background, which is the Malvern Town Hall. And that's clearly an old photo. This is Dandenong again. Now this is more like the 1930s. You can see there's a few people around, but just look at the architecture, guys. It's just everywhere, right down this street. All the same, and these are the same buildings we see everywhere. And keep in mind, these are not wooden, these are all brick. Where did they come from? Who built them? Because you saw that brickworks, that brick factory in 1902, that was. Alright, here's some photos. Now these, Maddie sent these in to me. He went around and took some photos, and I'm glad he did, because this is something I've been wanting evidence for a while. You can see this is an old style building, you know, built well. Now this is what we would call Tartarian or whatever, because it's got, you know, everything's in symmetry here. We've got, you know, this facade, just work that is just done either to look good or for Antiquitech, but you know, you can just tell that this is an old world building, and you can see that it's completely, it looks like it, you know, it's being rendered basically is what's happened now. Oops. If I can get in close here, you'll see they've pulled something off now under this render, apart from the fact that this window goes straight into the ground. This is all brick under this render. Now I've got some better shots. There you go. That was a hole in the building, and you can see it's red brick, and you can see that's a thick wall. That's not 2 bricks. That looks like, I mean, that looks like 6 bricks. You're thinking 1, 2, 3, I don't know, maybe 4. Definitely more than 2 bricks thick. That's a thick wall. And this is what is underneath, this old world red brick. Again, you can see they've painted over it, but it's there, and you can see all this has just been covered with thick, that's thick rendering. So they're obviously doing some renovations or something here. Hopefully they're not going to knock it over, but brick, brick, brick. Here again. So you can see everything's covered, but it's brick. It's red brick. So this is what I'm thinking is everything's red brick, guys. All these buildings. And they just give them different facades depending on where you are. So if you're in Australia, they put tin roofs on, they put verandas on them, and they render them. They often render them, and they put shapes in the render, and they also, in WA, they use a lot of limestone. And like I said, they use a lot of what we call blue metal over east. Don't see it as much in WA. Now this is the Dandenong, I think it's the town hall. Yeah, pretty sure it's the town hall. And look at that. This was built, what they say, basically 1898, I think, around the turn of last century. 50 years after the town was, well, not even, you know, after the first building went up, which happened just 2 years after someone started a sheep farm. But look at this. I mean, this could be anywhere, this building. You know, it's just classic. Everything, symmetry. Everything in symmetry here. You know, we've got these arches with the brickwork over them that we see. You know, all this stuff, the porticos, the walls, and of course this tower with this big spire, the fencing around it. And these look just, I think these are just lights that have been strung up. So they're not part of it, but yeah, we've got all this Antiquitech coming down here. So yeah, and you know, the clockwork, the windows, all symmetrical. You know, we don't know what all this stuff is yet. But a lot of work has gone into this, and I don't think it's all just for show. It does look good, but I think there's something else going on. So here's a post office again, and you know, as you can see, all this brick, 1848. Okay, must have got those photos mixed up, but here's some more of the brickwork. So you can see clearly, it's all red brick, all red brick. Okay, now this is the top of the post office. And as you can see, we've got this, you know, it's just, you see this stuff everywhere. It's just so classic. You know, the port windows with these surrounds are always the same, with this keystone looking thing at the top, almost a little antenna-y thing. There's something coming down here. I don't know what that is, but you can see at the side as well. It's the same all the way around, and they've all got these little spires. And then, of course, we've got the top up here. This is another part of it, just a freestanding portico, and on top again, you know, we've got all these bits. And it's just all so intricate. Again, there's that keystone looking thing that you see at the top of all the arches. You know, and it's just got something to do with energy, I don't know, like, you know, vortex into a point. And at the point we have this. Just don't know. That's the right way. Here's another shot now. As always happens, they put a flag on the pole. They turn it into a flagpole. And this is the town hall, I think. Is that what it is? Mostly these are post offices, these buildings with the clocks on them. They normally turn them in and call them post offices. But this one they haven't. Now this is the same building, I'm pretty sure. And this is metal strapping, and you can see it goes down into the pavement here. Now this here is blue metal. This is what we call blue metal. It's basically supposed to, you know, it's rock. It's supposed to be rock. Big blue bits of rock. And this is metal that's going up the building. Here's another shot where you can see it going into the ground here. Okay, and then it goes up the building, up the wall there. And this is that building with the tower on top. Here it is. I'm not sure if this is the same one, but another one. Some kind of metal that's going in the wall down to the ground. Here's some, and here's that same one. I think this is the first one. Just metal ribbon that's been grounded. So, and look at this. It goes right up the wall. I'll get back to that yet. And it comes, so, okay, so that's what that is. And then it goes up. Look at that. Okay, so thanks, Maddie, for getting these photos. Look at that. So this is basically ribbon. This is the old spire, and this is metal that someone has attached that goes all the way down the building and into the ground. Interesting. Now these are covers. Maddie lives in Dandenong, and he said he was talking to some old council workers, I think they were, and they said that these are tunnels. These are outside the building we just looked at, Town Hall, and they said that they go to the Masonic Lodge. So there's tunnels under the ground, which there are everywhere. So, I mean, what are these tunnels? Is that actually just like, you know, hallways of buildings that are under the ground? You just sort of jump into the lower levels and walk around? Because they're everywhere too. You know, there's, you know, it's really becoming apparent that we're just walking on history. It's all under our feet. Everything's been buried, literally. Buried from our consciousness, buried from our sight. Alright, so here's that quarry we had a look at before. Just wanted to zoom in. And here's our nice big obelisk. But yeah, see this? I mean, they're calling this a quarry. A quarry is clearly a hole in the ground. This doesn't look like a hole in the ground. And that looks like, I don't know, what do you think? That looks like brick construction. Doesn't it? And it looks like something's collapsed in the back here. That's almost like a triangle. It just looks like a collapsed building. You know, bits of stuff sticking out of the ground. I don't know, but that's what they're claiming was the quarry where all, you know, the blue metal and stuff like that came from. From there. The stuff that built this. Now, this is, this is the Malvern Town Hall. So this is in Melbourne. It's sort of 10 k's or something from Dandenong. We did see one picture of it in the past, and I just wanted to show you this. These again are from Maddie Reardon. Look at this. I mean, apart from the fact that that is exactly like the Dandenong Town Hall. Look at this Antiquitech. I mean, I'm not sure what this is. Some kind of antenna. Don't know. We've got all the same old Antiquitech stuff everywhere. That tower just looks a little bit taller, but apart from that, it looks they're all the same. You know, there must be some, I don't know, some archive somewhere of the plans, because these buildings are all the same. And especially, I was looking at churches. If you look at churches, they are all built on the same design, and some just have a bigger, like they have like a central bit, and then some have added on bits. It's like they're built in kit form or something. It's really, when you start looking at it, it just gets bizarre. This is again Malvern Town Hall. You can see the artwork, the keystone. Now all this stuff, this is just render. See how they put the lines in it? They try to make it look like it's, you know, oversized bricks or rocks or something. But that's just render. And here's that blue stone again at the bottom. And it's a lot of them. We do have solid bluestone, you know, buildings, a few churches and buildings, but most of it's just for footings. Here's another shot. You know, these things are everywhere. And another thing, see how we've got 3, 2, and then 2 spaced out. 3. Sometimes you have them equidistant the whole way along. Sometimes they're in groups. It's just, I don't know what they are. But I think there's got something to do with electrical, you know, resistance. I'm not sure. More keystones. And these things up here, see they're all almost looks like they're further apart, they're closer, they're further, they're closer, they're further. So, I mean, what is that? And you wouldn't, the time to do that when you're building this just for looks rather than just making them all equidistant apart is, you know, why would you do it? No one's really going to notice it. It's not going to change the look of the building. It's just going to make a lot more work. And here we go. They're in 2 pairs of 2. Nice flag up on the pole. And these keystones everywhere. And again, look at that. I mean, this looks like it's been put there after, you know, recently. But I mean, what is it, and why has it been put there? Are they still getting energy from this? Have they reconnected a circuit to this because they ripped the original antenna out and turned it into a flagpole, and then they went, oh, how do we get our free energy that we can sell to the people? Now this door is very tall and thin. Look at where the door handle is. So what's going on there? That's just a bit strange. And you can see they've even built the top of it in here. I mean, so that's like almost half the door height just there gone, and it still looks like a big door. And here's this blue stone. Now this is the inside. Just wanted to show you a few shots. It's all old world stuff. You know, all the ceilings and architraves are just amazing. Marble everywhere. We've even got a few statues. And of course, this is how you would build a town hall, isn't it? I mean, come on. Town halls are supposed to be places where people go to talk and to, you know, sort things out and to about their town they live in. This looks like somewhere you'd go to have a dance. I mean, and look at the ceilings. Like I said, when Australia was a young country just starting, these were small little towns. Why would they go to the expense? But more than that, how? How could they go to the expense? Look at just the floors. They're all inlaid. You know, heights of the building. Looks like they've just painted these windows in there. Just like, oh, they're too tall. Let's just pretend they're walls. Just weird. And just look at this picture with the blue stone here. See how that pipe's coming down? And they've just drilled, it looks like they've just scooped that out where this pipe is to get it in that corner. Now this blue stone, or blue metal, is what it's called because it's so hard. And they're saying they've just sort of, you know, and it's a hard angle to get that out too. So I'm thinking this blue stone here is a facade as well, over brick. You can see here there's a grate. You know, how did they cut this perfect square hole through it? You know, we saw that brick, how thick it was. So this, you know, this wall is, you know, like a foot thick or something. You could do that with bricks, but I don't know about this blue stone, you know, back in the 1898. Here it is again. So yeah, is this all facade as well? Because as you can see, we've got little bits here, not full stones. I don't know. This is definitely all facade. So I think this is too. I think it's just part of the illusion they use on the East Coast to say, yeah, look, that's not like any other country. We've got blue metal. And this is just another church I found. I couldn't find a lot on this. This is from Dandenong. This was from the 70s, this photo. So I'm not sure if it's still standing, but as you can see, a nice big red brick building. The ones that we see these everywhere, don't we? Like I said, it's like there's a general plan somewhere, then everyone's just building off it. And I found this when I was looking, you know, in Dandenong, and it's called the Russian Orthodox Church Dandenong. Now, I couldn't get a lot of information. That's a black and white picture, so I haven't really got a date. It's saying 1961. But, you know, you can see the onions on this, you know, the onion domes. But, yeah, I couldn't not find much information on it, but I thought it was interesting. Now, they've got a website, so this is their website, and it's full on Russian Orthodox. If we get these photos, it's pretty cool what they've, you know, it's like real old school Russian. Oh, come on. This says, you know, so this is 56, the Archbishop. And it says here in the late 1940s and 50s, people from Shanghai and Peking came to Australia. Throughout the 1960s, Russian families came in. So it's saying that this was built in the 1960s. So, I mean, and maybe it was. It's just that this old photo kind of, I was trying to find out where it was. What's happened to our photos? Here they are. So you can see it's the real old school Russian Orthodoxy stuff. And like the artwork in this place is just amazing. Is it going to show us? I think I've got a few downloads of it. But this is a real traditional kind of, is it Coptic? Is that what they call it? Coptic Christians? Russian Orthodox. So if anyone knows about this, if you're in Dandenong, Maddie, I don't know if you want to go along, go along and see what they do there. Because like the pictures, you can kind of see that there. Can we blow it up? Like, the work in this place is amazing. It looks old school, but I don't know how old it is. But look at that. That's inside this church. I mean, that looks like what you see in Europe in the medieval churches, doesn't it? So this place is really cool. I don't know a lot about it. Like I said, it says it's from the 60s and it's just Russian Orthodox. But some just amazing kind of artwork in there. I mean, maybe all the churches are, from this section of Christianity, is that how I say it? Maybe they all look like this. I don't know. It's obviously very traditional. I mean, look at that cross. The work in that. Just bizarre. I did not, and this is in Dandenong in Victoria. I mean, look at this. That looks like it should be in a church in Ethiopia. Doesn't it? Very interesting. I might have to actually do a bit of research into Russian, what is it? Russian Orthodox? Interesting stuff. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that. There's our thing again. So yeah, don't know when that is. But just a bit of a look at Dandenong there, guys, in Victoria. You can see that, massive brick buildings everywhere, towers, Antiquitech kind of stuff by the looks of it. And yeah, the story of where all the bricks came from doesn't really add up to much. And the quarries as well. It's just kind of these funny stories. We dug some holes, found some clay, and it turned into a creek. We dug up some rocks and built a bridge. It's really, it's very, very hazy, isn't it? And then, like I said, that's without the glass issue. Building post offices with windows in 1848 in Australia, where'd the glass come from? And that's without, the tools, the metal, the nails, the mortar, everything. And the population and the need to do it. So I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Bit of a wander around. Thanks for spending some time with me. And I shall catch you on the next upload. Bye for now.